Did you know that choosing to have your products manufactured in Vietnam could save you a lot of money due to the inexpensive shipping costs? The country features 2 international airports, many significant ports, dependable electricity, and easy internet and cell phone network connections. Due to the size of the nation, most suppliers are situated near an airport or large port. Why has Vietnam become a more popular place to manufacture than China? Be sure to stay tuned till the end, since our last bit of information could be invaluable to you. Vietnam's economy is a hybrid socialist-oriented market economy, ranked 37th by nominal gross domestic product and 23rd by purchasing power parity in the world in 2020. Vietnam is a member of the World Trade Organization, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. It has transitioned from a highly centralized command economy to a mixed economy since the mid-80s. This economy employs both directive and indicative planning through 5-year plans, and is supported by a market-based economy that is open to competition. During this time period, the economy has witnessed remarkable expansion. In the 21st century, Vietnam is integrating into the global economy. Almost all of Vietnamese businesses are small or medium-sized. The country has become Southeast Asia's biggest agricultural exporter and an attractive location for global business. In the present era, Vietnam's economy is heavily reliant on foreign direct investment to attract the cash needed to maintain its economic discipline. Foreign investment in luxury hotels and resorts will increase in order to boost the luxury tourism industry. PwC predicted in February 2017 that Vietnam may have the fastest-growing economy in the world with a projected annual GDP growth rate of roughly 5.1%, meaning its economy will be the 10th largest in the world by 2050. Vietnam has also been included in the Next 11 and Civets. The Vietnam War was one of the most horrific events in U.S. history, and more than 4 decades after its conclusion, both sides are still dealing with lingering fears. No one could have ever imagined the current situation in Vietnam and the role the U.S. is playing there. We are no longer discussing armed conflicts or geopolitics. Now it's business as usual, manufacturing things for American customers. And it is becoming a lucrative industry for Vietnam. The furniture and footwear industries are increasingly flocking to the Southeast Asian nation to make their items, which were formerly manufactured in China and the U.S. This is largely attributable to the current trade war between the U.S. and China, which has flipped the global sourcing model on its head, not just for China, but also for other countries in Asia, Europe, and even North America. With tariffs being a shifting target, subject to change at the whim of a tweet, U.S. firms are rethinking their supply chains in an effort to find new answers to new challenges. As a result, importers are leaving China as quickly as possible, a process that was already underway owing to increasing labor costs, currency fluctuations, and a general drive by the Chinese government to move into more advanced sectors, such as technology and aerospace, rather than simple consumer products. Meanwhile, Vietnam has been expanding rapidly. In the last year, U.S. manufacturing imports from Vietnam increased, while imports from China remained flat. Vietnam has benefited from China's failure to meet consumer expectations during the pandemic, but this is hardly the beginning of Vietnam's economic progress. Since 2013, the country's GDP has consistently increased. Vietnam ranked top among the 10 major Asian exporters in terms of export volume increase during 2015 at 96%. This rise is a result of buyers' trust in Vietnam's capacity to satisfy demand, as well as the right-shoring trend, which refers to the movement of manufacturing activities to nations with the optimal mix of cost and efficiency. Clearly, this combination is being discovered in Vietnam's industrial sector. In reality, Vietnam is currently the 6th biggest exporter in Asia, with a 2019 volume of $318 billion. A key factor is that Vietnam's labor costs are quite cheap. The disparity between China and Vietnam's labor costs is substantial. In 2020, Vietnamese industrial employees earned $2.99 per hour, compared to $6.50 per hour in China. China's average annual rise in hourly earnings has been higher than Vietnam's since 2016. Depending on the product, worker compensation might have a substantial effect on the unit cost. While salaries account for around 20% of the final unit price, which may not seem considerable, the cost of supplies must also be considered. With items that need more costly materials, labor costs may be reduced to lower the unit price. These savings accumulate over time, making a collaboration with a Vietnamese company the superior long-term investment. Vietnam has substantial state investment in infrastructure and good, modern shipping facilities, including 3 main ports at Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, and the SSA International Terminal, CMEP, in addition to several smaller ports. The country's 4 main airports and several smaller locations facilitate the management of air cargo. Vietnam's political system is stable and committed to expanding its commercial and industrial sectors. It has garnered $143 billion in foreign direct investment during the last decade. Over 59% of this investment has been allocated to the manufacturing sector, which has significantly contributed to Vietnam's economic development. Due to its commitment to continued economic reform, new free trade agreements, low labor costs, and general political stability, the nation continues to attract investment. Stability has been a criterion for commercial relationships in the industrial market. The escalation of hostilities between China and the U.S., together with the tensions produced by China's trade war, is why the U.S. has boosted its imports from Vietnam. Vietnam has engaged in key international free trade agreements to encourage its economic strength and financial stability to the advantage of its foreign partners. In an effort to extend its membership outside the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and drive its development, Vietnam has inked bilateral trade agreements all over the globe in recent years. These free trade agreements have helped Vietnam's economic growth and enabled the nation to transition from exporting low-tech manufactured goods to exporting high-tech goods such as electronics, equipment, medical devices, and cars. This implies that overseas partners may benefit from a highly trained workforce at a lower cost of labor than in China. Vietnam has surpassed China as the leading supplier of completed items to the U.S. market, marking one of the most significant swings in recent furniture import history, for example. According to statistics from Furniture Today, Vietnam exported slightly more than $7.4 billion in furniture to the U.S. in 2020, up 31% over the $5.7 billion it exported in 2019. During the same 12-month period, China sent $7.33 billion to the U.S. This figure was 25% less than the $9.7 billion China exported in 2019. Although the margin is relatively minor, Vietnam's standing on the international scene demonstrates its increasing significance over time. This, of course, began slowly, with Vietnam emerging as a major player in the wood bedroom industry in reaction to anti-dumping charges imposed on Chinese bedroom makers beginning in June 2004. In the second half of 2018, when China's 10% tariffs went into effect, the sector had already begun to leave China, although slowly at first. China's furniture exports decreased by 1% to $13.6 billion. Vietnam's exports increased by 9%, from $3.9 billion in 2017 to $4.2 billion in 2018. Another industry in which Vietnam has been making waves is footwear manufacturing. Despite being a considerably smaller nation in China, it has proven to be a more desirable location for footwear production. In reality, manufacturers for some of the largest shoe companies are situated in Vietnam, such as worldwide footwear companies Nike, Adidas, and Puma. One of the primary reasons Vietnam is such a desirable location for the production of footwear is due to the fact that exports from Vietnam are subject to little or no tariff limitations. As of August 1, 2020, the European-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement was implemented, enabling 99% of export products to be delivered into Europe duty-free. As money transferred from tariffs to quality investments, it was logical for the already substantial output to rise further, allowing for a more varied and higher quality shoe industry. In addition, during and after COVID-19, a number of corporations sought to diversify risks and other known realities by shifting a substantial portion of their manufacturing from China to Vietnam and other Asian nations. The burgeoning environmental movement is another reason Vietnam has been so on trend recently. Vietnam-based manufacturers, designers, and tanners are using recycled and eco-friendly materials, shifting from genuine leather to lightweight or vegan substitutes. Concepts like biodegradable and eco-consciousness are gaining favor among shoe manufacturers. Although the price point for these materials and goods is quite high, customers are increasingly prepared to spend more for higher quality, superior service, and a pair of sustainable shoes. For the majority of producers, these advances emphasize the significance of material quality, craftsmanship, certifications, and excellent design. Vietnam is becoming distinct from other Asian nations, where cheap salaries and synthetic materials are still the norm. Likewise, Vietnam-based tanners are modifying their materials in response to the increased emphasis on sustainable and high-quality manufacturing. Vietnam is also one of the world's leading exporters of apparel and textiles. The government has imposed stringent environmental protection rules and restrictions on the industrial sector. With the assistance of foreign investors, the sector has the potential to proceed in a sustainable manner, since it is still expanding. Vietnamese producers are more receptive to smaller order volumes than their Chinese counterparts. The majority of garment and home textile manufacturers employ between 500 and 2,500 people. A plant with 500 employees can produce around 300,000 units each year. Vietnam's infrastructure is typical for a nation at its level of development. Vietnam's industrial sector continues to expand and prosper for a variety of reasons, but mostly owing to the quantity of highly trained laborers. Due to the high craftsmanship requirements, low-quality items are uncommon. Given this information, how do you feel about doing business in Vietnam? What else would you like us to talk about in our upcoming videos? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any of our videos.